A lot of the reporting that we've been seeing coming out of the region has been from Gaza. Can you give our worldwide audience, though, an understanding geographically of where you are in Tel Aviv as it relates to where Gaza is?
I think that's a great question because Israel is such a small country. So to put it into perspective, where I've been on the front lines reporting all this time near those southern cities in near the Gaza Strip, it's maybe 30 to 40 miles away from here. Takes about, without any traffic, which there hasn't been on these roads because no one should be allowed on these roads at this time near those southern cities. It takes maybe 45 minutes to an hour to drive down there. So very, very close proximity because Israel is such a small country. So while we talk about everything that's happening at the Gaza border, it is only about an hour maybe away from the center of Israel, which is Tel Aviv, one of these major hubs and major cities here.
Nicole is a correspondent with I-24 News, which is an outlet based out of the region there. You have been busy really on the ground these past 48, 72 hours. Right now, you are in Tel Aviv in the studio, but can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like being out in the field so far during this situation?
It's been horrible. I'll be honest with you. I've seen images that I could never imagine witnessing with my own eyes, just atrocities. Just 4 hours ago, that's when I was at the border before I came back here in one of the southern communities, Kfar Aza, one of the scenes of a massacre. It's maybe a quarter of a mile less than the Gaza Strip. You can see it right there. As we were there, you continue to see smoke in the distance as Israel is continuing to pound people in the Gaza Strip, and Gaza Hamas terrorists continue to bombard Israel with rockets. As I was in that community multiple times throughout the day, we had to just drop to the ground, cover our heads. Because rockets were being fired at us. And in times like those, you actually don't even get an alert. You can all hear the rocket being fired beforehand because it happens so quickly. You don't even have time to look at your phone and hear that alert. So as we're walking through these communities that are completely devastated, Israeli soldiers are continuing to go through some of these kibbutz communities in the south and still looking at the total loss of lives, Israeli lives that have been lost. They're still continuing to go house to house, door to door, to first make sure that there are no active terrorists hiding in them, because there are still terrorists in the south as we speak. And Israeli military is continuing to comb and cleanse the streets as best they can. But they say there is a major possibility that in many of these fields, in any of these houses, gardens, wherever it may be, there are still terrorists hiding out. And so that's what's made the recovery effort very difficult. So in the community that I was in earlier today in Kfar Aza, we were with the military as they were going door to door, house to house, continuing to retrieve Israeli bodies that were just massacred in their own homes. We're hearing from one of the deputy commanders I spoke with. He was one of the first people to arrive at the scene of the attack on Saturday, after, he says, 70 armed terrorists came into the community, not only gunning down these families, but also using knives to cut off, dismember. He said children. Said he saw with his own eyes babies, children with their heads cut off. Truly images that you can't even just describe. You can't even imagine thinking of some of these atrocious acts that have been happening in these southern communities. And you continue to see the remnants of those horrible acts. I saw a baby's crib that was flipped on its side, splattered with blood, a child's toy still sitting in the basket where a child should be. And those are just the images that you continue to see lining this community. And this is just one of the communities in the south that was massacred. When we spoke to the commanders and the soldiers there, they say this wasn't a battlefield, this wasn't a war zone, this was a massacre, because there were no soldiers there, there was no one to defend them. These were innocent civilians who were inside their homes when these terrorists came and committed these war crimes, these atrocious acts. So there's the scenes that these soldiers are coming into account for every single day as you drive through these southern cities, as you're going through the roads in the south. You continue to see just cars left to the side of the road, riddled with bullet holes, the glass completely shattered, blood on the steering wheel, because these terrorists went through and anyone they saw, any of these vehicles, they continued to gun down. So really horrible acts, all of that happening as we continue to also be attacked from the air as well, with rockets and other artillery from the Gaza border.
Nicole, when you're taking cover yourself, when you have to hit the ground, what type of areas are you? Are you in residential areas when these things are happening? Are you on some sort of a, you call it a battleground at this point? What type of area are we talking about here?
Everywhere. When I tell you I've been everywhere throughout these southern communities in the past 4 days, I've really been everywhere. And you never know when a red alert is going to go off, and you have to get to cover as quickly as possible. So when we're doing our live reports in the field, we try and stay near a public bomb shelter, which in some of these southern places, they're always next to maybe a public bus stop, and all throughout these communities, because they should be within maybe 30 feet, because as I said, you only have 10 seconds to get to a public bomb shelter. So we stay next to those during our live reports, but when we're driving to some of our live reports, driving to these fields, a rocket could go off at any moment. So when that happens, we have to quickly stop the car, run out of it, and lie on the ground as quickly as possible. Hopefully get to a trench if you can. Even just today, actually, as I was coming back from running out of the car in the south near the Gaza border, ducking for cover, the minute I returned to the station, I hopped on my bike to bike home to my apartment in Tel Aviv, and another alert went off, and I had to hop off my bike. I wasn't near a building, so I had to just kind of go on the ground near the sidewalk and wait for some of these interceptions overhead. So you can't say exactly where you're going to be. It's happening in communities. It's happening on the side of the road. It's happening everywhere. So wherever you might be, there's a good chance that you're going to have to find a shelter or a safe place as best you can.
We've heard so much about the surprising nature of this attack when it began on Saturday. I know you live in Tel Aviv. What was that experience like for you, and how did you first hear about this happening?
I first woke up to my phone just buzzing off the clock, because around 6:30 in the morning, we keep seeing these red alerts happening in these southern communities. A surprise attack from Hamas terrorists firing thousands, we now know, thousands of rockets towards southern Israel later in the day, also targeting central Israel as well. And so that already was surprising in itself, because especially working in the media, you sometimes have maybe more of a heads up that something like this is happening. No one knew that anything like this was happening, let alone what continued to happen, because as those rockets were being fired, we also had terrorists breaching the Gaza border. We know there are dozens of different breaches in this security fence that separates Israel from Gaza throughout these past 4 days. As of earlier today, I know the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, has reported that in the Gaza border area so far, they've already found 1,500 terrorist bodies. So that gives you an idea of just how many terrorists were able to infiltrate into the area. And they say it is still a possibility as of this morning that more terrorists were infiltrating into the area. So the Israeli military is trying to get a grip and control the southern border. They're deploying many, many different tanks, armored vehicles. They have different warplanes, different helicopters patrolling the area to try and make sure that no one else gets in. However, the possibility that anyone who has already gotten in and is in there is also remains very, very high throughout the day as we're driving through these southern cities and you're surrounded by fields. Many of the Israeli military would stop us and say, you just need to know that you're in an active military zone right now. It is not safe for you to be here, and we are actively looking for terrorists. Try and protect yourself. Make sure you always have your bulletproof vest on, your helmet, but also just stay alert as best you can, because it's a very, very dangerous scene down there.
I-24 News correspondent Nicole Zedeck in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Nicole, thank you for your time, and stay safe to you and your crew.
Thank you.
All right, you were listening in there. That was our